Wait, what? What kind of video is this? I'm supposed to be working on some kind of countdown to review or whatever. Why am I Linus? Who the hell is Jethrotex? And why do I have a strong feeling this countdown is going to be the end of me? Oh wait, no, it's not true, right? It can't be. God damn it, am I in a commentary? Yes? Oh, well, that's great. Well, I guess I gotta go through with it. Just get the bleach ready and we're all set to go. Okay, time to die. Before getting into the video itself, I'd like to point out that the title of this list is already setting it up for mediocrity. For something to be the worst for its particular genre, group, cancer, whatever, implies that it is of poor quality, is inferior, or is defective. In the case of this list, one would think the top 10 worst legendaries would be the ones that have bad combinations of move pools, abilities, and stats that make them underperform in battle. Honestly, a better name for this list would be least favorite, given your reasoning for some of these legendaries being the worst. If you wanted the list to be that way, then good for you, but you really need to establish it better. Okay, now let's rip into this thing.
Hey everyone, today we look at what I have found to just be some of the worst legendary Pokemon.
How dare you insult my OC Beethoofzilla? I'll sue you for art harassment.
Now, even though I say these are the worst, it doesn't mean the Pokemon themselves are bad, or that no one can like them. It just means that they can be bad, and that no one should like them. Okay, I'm just kidding. Most legendary Pokemon are unique. Most of the reason these guys end up on the list are through weird decisions made by the developers, and not the Pokemon themselves.
So basically, the only criteria you're giving for the list is Game Freak did something weird and that means these guys suck! While it is true that the developers would have influenced how these Pokemon perform in game, aspects of the games themselves, and even designs of the Pokemon, we'll see in a minute that they could have had no impact on some of the reasons you give for these Pokemon being on the list. If you gave more criteria for why these legendaries are bad besides developers lol, then I might have been able to take you more seriously. Thesis statements are a basic part of persuasive writing. Learn to write them.
So don't worry, there's always a light in the darkness, or something deep. Metaphors. Yeah.
This fluff goes on for about another 20 seconds, and it's one of the biggest problems I have with this video. A lot of the time, they'll just add stuff in to pad the video out. Sometimes it's a joke, and sometimes just because. I'll be skipping over anything that doesn't really need to be there, so I can actually see you get to the point.
Number 10. Reshiram. Reshiram is a Pokemon with the typing I was looking forward to for years. However, I just don't feel like it was properly executed. I always pictured the combination of fire and dragon to be more menacing and powerful looking. Unfortunately, Reshiram just doesn't deliver on that front.
Whoa, I didn't think I was on Tricky's channel. Seriously, saying a Pokemon is bad because it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to is incredibly petty. You're judging Reshiram purely by your own personal views on what a fire dragon type should be, something that the developers had no control over. If you really want a menacing fire dragon, you've got Mega Charizard X. Don't fault Reshiram for not meeting your expectations, you asshole.
I think the idea of a white flame is a cool idea for a design, but it felt like they were trying to push the yin and yang symbolism too much, and threw in fire as an afterthought.
Yeah, no. You see, if you were asked to do a bit of research, you might know that Reshiram's typing comes from more than just its design. For one thing, there's the fact that the duo of it and Zekrom have some ties to the Zoroastrian belief, two equally powerful deities, one representing light and truth, the other representing lies and darkness. Because it sides with the truth, Reshiram represents Ahura Mazda, the light and truth of that duo. And guess what? Ahura Mazda was associated with fire. Not to mention some of the qualities of Gang are sun and fire, and the two legendaries were designed so that their secondary types culminated as plasma, referencing the villainous team of the game. There, evidence for Reshiram's fire typing. Now do you see why it wasn't just an afterthought? Okay, the rest of this segment is just you repeating yourself and going off on tangents. So, skip!
Number 9. Regirock. I don't know, man, it's a rock. It's like Graveler, but ancient and less dirt. It is cleaner. At least with Regice and Registeel, I can think, wow, that's a sleek piece of metal / cool robot you got there. Or, dang, that's a nice flow, nice sculpture. But with Regirock, I just think, hey man, that mountain moved. I now know how Charlie Brown felt every Halloween when adults would give him rocks. Why did they do that, by the way? You don't know him, he's just a random kid. Why do you even have rocks in your house? Why would you give that to a kid for Halloween? Where'd you get the rocks? What did he even do? This isn't about Pokemon anymore. Whoops.
Yeah. Oh, it's over? Well, there's 20 seconds of my life I'll never get back. You know what you could have done instead of spending half the segment rambling about peanuts? Given some more reasons as to why Regirock is a bad legendary. Tamashii was able to give a better explanation than you, and she's, well, Tamashii. Making a worse argument than her is an impressive feat. You could have explained how Regirock's insane defense stat doesn't go well with its lack of recovery moves, or how the physical special split made some of its good moves like Focus Blast and Ancient Power practically useless. But no, you talked about rocks. You even acknowledged that the Peanuts thing was a tangent, so why did you feel the need to leave it in for the sake of a joke instead of just giving some more explanation? And yeah, humor is subjective, but come on, that joke dragged on way too long. You barely spent any time going over what makes Regirock bad, making your argument come off as, this legendary is bad because rock. Oh, why do I feel like more segments to go?
So I had to go ahead and throw a roaming Pokemon on this list because why not? It was frustrating as a kid when you didn't know the roaming strategies and actually tried to track him down without mean look.
Elaboration? What's that? You might have been able to make a decent point, though Pokemon being a roaming legendary is still a pretty terrible reason to label it as being bad. However, you failed to go into any sort of explanation. Again, what exactly makes Entei worse than other roaming legendaries? Is it the typing and powerful stab moves? Is it the fact that it has access to Roar? Is it the fact that it has the highest HP out of all of legendary beasts? Details, man! I need details!
The one thing that really creeped me out as a kid was in the third Pokemon movie, when he steals Ash's mom and hypnotizes her. Like, what? Why would you do that? That's just off limits. You don't mess around with another person's mom. That is very un-excellente.
Oh, so you are bringing the anime into this. Maybe you could have mentioned that earlier. Also, good job faulting the Entei species as a whole because of the actions of one. Also, that Entei was told to capture Donnie Ketchum by Molly Hale after being led to believe that it was the latter's father. Also, why are there puns?
Number 7. Yveltal? Is that how you say it? See, I think it's Yveltal because evil, but I don't know if people are gonna get mad about that. I just want to say a Pokemon's name. Yveltal is a really nicely designed Pokemon that does justice to the flying dark typing. It also has some really cool dark moves that fit its personality, and has an awesome color design.
Having fun shooting yourself in the foot?
The problem here is if you look at its Pokedex entry, it states, when its life comes to an end, it absorbs the life energy of every living thing and turns into a cocoon once more. Which means, when it dies, everything dies.
I mean, it's not like Yveltal is supposed to be the destruction Pokemon, or how it's supposed to be the opposite of Xerneas, the bringer of life, or how it's based on carrion birds and Harasvigler, whose name translates to corpse swallower. No, there's no reason for it to be associated with death. Okay, if I make it serious for a second, this is easily the worst reasoning on the list. You're literally faulting Yveltal for doing its job. You list off a bunch of reasons for why Yveltal is a good legendary, then just stick it on a list because, oh no guys, it kills things! How does that make Yveltal bad? Did you forget that it was supposed to be designed that way, or are you really just that petty? Honestly, if you're not going to put effort into making a decent segment, then I'm going to move on forgetting that this ever existed.
Number 6. Rotom-Wash. If anything, you've got to at least give this list credit for having some really out there reasons so far. And here's another one.
Well, I will give you credit that your reasoning has made me want to snap my neck. Other than that, you're still terrible.
Rotom-Wash has been one of the most terrifying Pokemon for me to face in competitive battles. And boy, can I not remember what the heck its typing is. In Generation 4, it would be Ghost Electric no matter what. But that was changed to getting rid of the Ghost type and giving it the typing of whatever household appliance it possessed. That might seem simple, but in-game, I can't remember for the life of me what type gets replaced, so I always try to hit it with a ghost or dark move thinking it's super effective, and then it runs down my whole team because I didn't bring a counter.
Fine, I'll concede that it was a choice on the developer's part to change Rotom-Wash's typing to electric water. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that you are faulting the Pokemon for a personal problem. You don't like it because you can't remember its typing and it keeps beating you? I'll accept that. It's one of the worst legendaries because you can't remember its typing? Shut up. If it's really that big of a problem, couldn't you look up its typing when you need to? Doesn't take very long. Actually, wouldn't the fact that you find Rotom-Wash hard to beat be a reason for it being one of the better Pokemon on this list? What is your reasoning? How can you be this petty? Also, yeah, I know Rotom isn't actually legendary, but I won't fault you for that because it can be confusing. Still shows the benefits of research.
Number 5. Diancie. This is purely a design thing. I think it's kind of cool, but I just can't help but think it looks like a radioactive Mr. Burns possessing a pile of poop. Which would make sense because Mr. Burns is old. Doesn't mean I don't think it doesn't look like poop, you know?
Well, you just spent less time on that segment than you did rambling about peanuts. My, that bleach is looking real tasty right now. So, design. You're putting Diancie at the number 5 spot on a worst legendaries list because you don't like its design. Oh wait, I'm sorry, it's still kind of cool. Good job giving this segment even less of a reason to exist. Now, in case you don't know, let me spell it out for you. In almost every case, design is not a valid reason to call a Pokemon objectively bad. Whether or not you like it, it's fine, but that kind of reasoning has no place on a list like this, especially when you go into no detail. Is there anything else that makes Diancie bad? No, not really. Because it has incredible defenses and pretty good attack stats, a wide variety of moves to use, abilities to negate status changes and other effects, and a mega evolution with boosted attack stats and speed. Really, the two things you can fault Diancie for are its low HP and a lack of fairy type moves. Things you didn't even bother to address. Your argument is literally shit.
Number 4. Alomomola. I mean, what a terrible legendary Pokemon. It isn't even legendary. Alright, jokes aside, just imagine how bad this Pokemon would be as a legendary Pokemon. It looks like a love disc that got stung by multiple bees and had an allergic reaction. Also imagine it being part of a dramatic cutscene. Oh no, the world is in trouble. We need help from the legendary Pokemon, blah blah blah, to save us now. Just awful, that is just not a good legendary Pokemon.
Okay, I don't want to come off as someone who thinks that nobody can find this joke funny just because I don't, but I do have a few things to say. First, you say that Alomomola wouldn't be a good legendary Pokemon. And yeah, that's true, because it wasn't designed to be one. Second, you just used the segment to riff on its design and name because... reasons. Plenty of people have done this before, and they didn't need a joke segment to do it. And third, you're still slowly killing me, and I'll leave something cursed for you in my will. Also, I'm skipping the number 3 segment because you actually make a decent argument about Phione being a discount Manaphy. So, 2 sins removed, or something.
Number 2. Arceus. Arceus.
You've insulted God, you fool! I'll be seeing you in hell!
Again, another Pokemon I like for its design, but was just really ruined by the decisions revolving around it. Let's start from the beginning. This Pokemon is actually unobtainable in-game. You were supposed to get the Azure Flute by Wi-Fi distribution like you'd get the Member's Key or Oak's Letter for Darkrai and Shaman. However, Masuda thought it would be too confusing for people to use, so they didn't release it. Confusing? What, do I actually have to learn how to play the flute? Do I gotta go take lessons, come back, and play a full concert to unlock this Pokemon?
You know, I was curious as to why Masuda called the Azure Flute too confusing, so I did a bit of research. The best explanation I was able to find was a post by an unknown Reddit user, who described how the statement was pretty much just a cover-up to hide the real issue, glitches in marketing. The original Diamond and Pearl games were super glitchy. It had one glitch in particular that allowed players to surf through the door in Elite Four Aaron's room and enter the void, allowing them to reach Fulmar Island and Flower Paradise to catch Darkrai and Shaman without using event items. However, the glitch didn't work with Arceus in the Hall of Origin. But starting in Generation 4, event Pokemon were distributed in Japan to promote Pokemon movies. People would get the mascot legendary by buying a ticket and going to the movie, but if a player had already used the surf glitch to obtain Darkrai or Shaman in-game, then the legendaries wouldn't respawn once the player used their event item. So to avoid any trouble, Darkrai and Shaman were distributed normally. However, the glitch was later fixed in Platinum, so Game Freak was able to distribute the Member's Card and Oak Letter to Platinum players as intended. But when it came time to distribute Arceus, there was a problem, since it would be distributed to all 3 games at the same time. Game Freak thought it would be strange for Diamond and Pearl players to receive the Azure Flute after getting the previous 2 event Pokemon directly, and it would be strange to distribute an item to Platinum players, but not Diamond and Pearl players. In order to stay consistent, Arceus was distributed directly to all 3 games, so the Azure Flute didn't need to exist anymore. But now that we're done with the history lesson, something that wouldn't have taken me that long to find out, let's move into how none of this is relevant to Arceus being a bad Pokemon. I'll give you credit for actually using something the developers did as a part of your reasoning, but that brings up another issue with your criteria. You're still faulting Arceus for something totally out of its control. The developers may have made some odd decisions regarding its release, but that shouldn't reflect on Arceus in a negative way. It's an issue with the games, not an issue with the Pokemon.
Not to mention the fact that this is supposed to be the god of all Pokemon. It would feel weird to catch it in game because you could just chuck one Master Ball at it and boom. all its powers are nullified. However, giving it away as an event gift at every possible turn and never letting you encounter the Pokemon in a dramatic way makes Arceus feel even less special.
Okay, so what you're saying is that Arceus being given away like candy hurts its character. I can accept that. But that's the only reasoning you have for it being at the number 2 spot on this list. You ignore that it has a base stat total of 720, can be any type in the game, and learns a wide variety of moves with Level Up, TM/HM, and Move Tutor. And then just stick it on here because you think it doesn't have a cool fight. And you know what? Even that's wrong, because spin-offs exist. In Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs, you can fight it on 2 separate occasions. And in Pokemon Conquest, it's a powerful opponent the main character has to link with in order to fight the final boss. And if you want Arceus to have a role in the main series, I point to Heart Gold Soul Silver. If you have it, you can go to the Sinnoh Ruins, where Arceus will create one of the members of the Creation Trio. Sure, it may not be an intense battle, but it certainly demonstrates why it's regarded as the god of all Pokemon. So yeah, given everything that's got going for it, a few mix-ups in the events don't make Arceus an objectively bad legendary. Whatever, let's just move on to number 1.
Its ability alone makes it a super weak Pokemon too. Slow Start halves its attack and speed for 5 turns. That's already pretty bad, but if you switch it out, the counter resets, making you have to wait another 5 turns. That ability alone drops this Pokemon into the PU tier.
I'll admit that Slow Start is easily one of the worst abilities in the series, and that it does make Regigigas far from the greatest legendary. However, there's plenty of ways around that ability that can make it incredibly powerful. You've got Skill Swap and a crap ton of other ability-changing moves for doubles. You can use its bulk to make it into a wall. You can even boost its special attacks out with choice specs and make use of moves like Focus Blast, Earth Power, and Thunder. You did stick to your criteria and gave a decent explanation, but it really wasn't enough to justify Regigigas being the worst legendary. With Phione, you went for pretty much everything that made him a meh Pokemon. But here, you didn't acknowledge any fixes to Regigigas, and you put it at number 1 just because of its ability and a few design issues. I'd accept this segment lower on the list, but here, nah. Okay, it's over. Time for final thoughts. Bad Poketubers seem to be popping up more and more often nowadays, and Jethrotex, if this video is any indication, I'm afraid you might be one of them. Not quite as bad as Brandon or Tricky at the worst, and certainly not like Tamashi can be, but still bad. Your editing is super meh, your jokes are often forced or don't even make sense, and your persuasive writing skills really need some work. Most of the problems I have with this list started with 2 things: the title and the criteria. If you wanted this to come off as a least favorite list, then I'm sorry if I've insulted your opinions, but based on the title, intro, and list as a whole, it seems like you were really trying to justify these legendaries as being the worst. But honestly, even the opinion card couldn't have saved you from bullshit criteria and piss poor reasoning. Using purely developers as criteria is an incredibly petty move, as most of the time when you actually stuck to it, you faulted the Pokemon for things they had no control over. Of course, there are a lot of times when you didn't stick to it, and that really doesn't help your credibility. I know you said that most of the reasons were because of the developers, but let's take a look back to the list of your reasoning. Reshiram didn't meet your expectations. Regirock, rock. Entei, token roaming and mommy issues. Yveltal, it kills things. Rotom-Wash, memory problems. Diancie, shit. Alomomola, joke segment. Phione, discount Manaphy. Arceus, flute problems. Regigigas, design and ability. If I'm generous and include design as a developer thing, then that's 4 out of 10. And if I don't, that's 2 out of 10. Either way, it isn't most. That's not how math works. For most of the list, you just use your own personal feelings or problems as justification for Legendary being bad. And that is the worst part about this list. You didn't come off as aggressive or condescending with your opinions, but it just seems like you didn't put any effort into writing this and just did it. This video was bad, and I really think you need to invest some time to getting better with your writing and reasoning. But hey, it's 4 months old, so maybe you've improved a bit since then. Let's see, other worst lists, some sun and moon theorizing. Oh, well, down the hatch.